Ecological living practices. Sustainable ecological living is based on different sets of principles. To assess the impact of our choices and actions, we need criteria from studying the basic facts of life. So here are the 5 criteria from the basic facts of life. Number 1 is matter cycles continually through the web of life. Number 2, most of the energy that drives the ecological cycles flow from the sun. Number 3 is diversity assures resilience. The 4th one is one species waste is another species food. And lastly, life does not take over the planet by combat but by networking. The dimensions of sustainability describe the environmental impacts of our activities, the causes of which one come from the socioeconomic and political systems of the society. Sustainable development entails 3 dimensions: the environmental, economic, and social. Ecological living gives a larger understanding of how things connect and are interdependent. That begins with addressing the causes of negative impacts on the environment. Ecological living and literacy, therefore, provide people with the tools, knowledge, and wisdom to taking concrete actions on their means to desire contribute to a better world and future. Therefore, ecological living means to live in a way that, number 1, respects and replenishes the carrying capacity of our planet. Number 2, honors our interrelatedness with all expressions of life. Number 3, enhances the qualitative aspects of our relationships. And lastly, brings forth the best of our human capacities for the co-creation of an ecologically sustainable and caring world. Smithman mentioned practical suggestions on how we can support the change for sustainability through ecological living. So in order to sustain our outer actions for ecological living, it is helpful to remember and draw inspiration from the inner or personal development dimensions of ecological living. So the following are inner and outer ecological perspectives. So in inner ecology, number 1 is become a catalyst of change to help co-create a better world and future. Number 2, care for and relate with non-human beings while spending time with nature. Number 3, make the most of sustainability crisis that forces us to learn, dream, think, design, act, and relate in new ways. Number 4 is join the rest around the world in becoming agents of sustainability. 5th is nurture nature by taking care of our body and become aware of our natural body rhythms. Number 6 is become more energy efficient and learn to recycle our own energy. Number 7, learn to compost our own waste and no need to dump this onto others. And lastly, become aware of rights, needs, and well-being of future generations and explore how we can support these in our actions. So in outer ecology, number 1 is educate ourselves about the resources that we, our family, and or organizations utilize to fulfill and sustain our needs. Number 2 is, this is very important nowadays, which is the reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Number 3 is, be aware of the real price of goods and services that we use. So, cheap products often have hidden costs. Example is the cost of child labor, animal cruelty, or degradation of ecosystems. Next is, find out any labor practices or natural resources that were sacrificed in the process of producing products and services. The 5th is, recycle grey water. Collect and use rainwater. Create an organic vegetable garden. Number 8 is compost organic waste and use the compost in the garden. Another is create a garden, but with a balance of endemic or indigenous plants. to support local wildlife like animals, insects, trees, and plants. Number 10 is create a roof garden, like green roof, as a natural air conditioning alternative to increase garden space. Number 11 is buy organic and local products as much as possible. Lastly, support local businesses and organizations that care for our planet. And now, let's proceed on integrating ecological literacy into the curriculum. The Center for Ecoliteracy promotes a variety of teaching strategies based on practices that are developmentally appropriate to students' level and are brain-based to foster knowledge, skills, and values essential to sustainable living. Students learn best when teaching strategies are varied that include hands-on activities, time for reflection, thoughtful discussion, and combined indoor and outdoor environments, including interdisciplinary projects. Number 1 is the place-based learning. It is an experiential learning that engages students in their own environments and a strategy that captures their imagination and advances environmental stewardship and civic engagement. So activities may include mapping the local environment to learn key ecological and cultural principles, studying the interplay between local society and the environment, supporting habitat restoration projects, and working with local citizens to improve the quality of life in their communities. So learning takes students out of the classroom and into the community and natural environment. And it adheres to the following principles. 1.1 is the place-based projects are integrated back into classroom lessons. 1.2, students want to learn in order to apply their knowledge to solving real problems. Next is, students play an active role in redefining and recreating projects. 1.4, students collaborate with local citizens, organizations, agencies, businesses, and government. Next is, students help make plans that shape the future of their social, physical, and economic environments. Lastly, students are encouraged to view the community as an ecosystem and to understand the relationships and process necessary to support healthy living. So, research reveals the benefits of place-based learning, such as number 1 is the higher test scores, number 2, better grade point averages, number 3, improved classroom behavior, number 4, increased self-esteem and problem-solving abilities, and lastly, higher level thinking skills. Number 2 is the project-based learning. It is a strategy that involves students in projects that use a variety of resources, including the community, technology, outside experts, written resources, and the web, while the teacher usually serves as a facilitator of learning. So in using this strategy, research shows its impact on learners, such as it increased critical thinking skills of students, fostered positive attitudes towards subjects such as mathematics, and exemplary performance with conceptual questions and applied problems. And lastly, it improved positive study and work habits, problem-solving capabilities, and self-esteem. Likewise, project-based learning bears environmental impact such as habitat restoration, modeling the evolution of agriculture, and changing food in schools. Number 3 is Socratic inquiry. This is named after the Greek philosopher Socrates, who believed that questions, not answers, stimulate learning. Therefore, rather than teaching facts and information, teachers encourage students to ask questions about their assumptions, values, and preconceptions. Therefore, the role of the teacher shifts from direct instruction to facilitating discussion. So, through skilled questioning, the teacher asks students and clarify their statements, identify weaknesses in their arguments, and provide evidence for their reasoning. So in return, this strategy impacts student learning as evidenced by the following outcomes. Number 1 is students reveal their beliefs, misconceptions, and values, and eventually clarify their thoughts related to the topic being discussed. Number 2 is students become more adept in critical thinking. Lastly, students improve their listening skills and learn to better articulate their thoughts and ideas and become more tolerant of diverse opinions. Number 4 is the experiential learning. It promotes students' involvement in the real world and defines the teacher role as a facilitator of learning. The process of learning leads to behavioral outcomes. It is based on the premise that learning is an active and a continuous process, with experience as its foundation. So, the experiential learning goes along with the principles of learning associated with environmental literacy. 4.1. Experiential learning is vital to schooling for sustainability. Next is, only through direct contact with the natural world will students develop an in-depth understanding of fundamental ecological principles. Next is, by working with others to solve real problems, they also develop skills at the heart of sustainable living. Next is, when students participate in experiential learning, they frequently follow the learning cycle. Lastly, this is a process that starts with unstructured exploration, followed by concept formation and application. Lastly is integrating the ecological literacy in the interdisciplinary learning. Interdisciplinary learning emphasizes connections between traditional discrete disciplines such as math, science, history, and language arts, rather than limiting learning to one content area at a time. The following are advantages of interdisciplinary learning. First is, when teaching and learning are organized around themes, problems, or issues, students seek knowledge and skills from a variety of disciplines to provide an expanded and more complex understanding of the topics. When done well, interdisciplinary approach eliminates fragmentation and learning of isolated skills. Next is, it allows students to access a particular theme from different entry points as they work with a range of sources of information and perspectives. It also allows teachers to better differentiate instruction and create more interesting and rich methods of assessment. Next is, it increases students' motivation for learning as well as their level of active engagement. Next is, students recognize the value of their learning and become more involved to it. Next is, students learn more when they apply a variety of skills to what they are studying and when they interact with their classmates, teachers, and members of the community. Lastly, interdisciplinary teaching and learning adheres to the principles that help define sustainable living. That's all. Thank you.